Welcome, brave souls, to another haunting chapter of Ghost Girl Diaries, where the supernatural awaits, transmitting from the other side, where paranormal meets glamour. I'm your host this evening, Crystal Leandra, the Queen of the Dead, a paranormal filmmaker and investigator, and the glam behind the ghost hunt. Here we dive into spine-chilling hauntings, explore the unknown, and uncover the secrets across the most haunted locations in the world. Whether you're a believer or a skeptic, you're in for a thrill. So grab your EMF meter, your crystals, and your cross, because things are about to get supernatural with a little bit of glam. Let's get haunted. This is Ghost Girl Diaries. 98% of my contracts that I've negotiated for paranormal production have ended in some producer or executive producer soliciting me for sex. This is a podcast that my guides have been really pushing me to do, and they've been pushing me to do it for a while. I'm going to start out very transparent and say that I'm a producer myself. I read contracts. I read the fine lines. I cannot name drop in this podcast. Please don't ask me to on the YouTube channel. The main reason I cannot name drop is I have NDAs signed, and most of the time those NDAs are infinite. They don't just go away unless there's an expiration date. So I cannot name drop companies, I can't name drop people, and I cannot name drop networks. But I will say this. If you've been following my journey for a while in paranormal, you know at this point I have negotiated with every network on television, and some multiple times, some many multiple times, because obviously there's multiple production companies at networks. So sometimes I've renegotiated with production companies twice. Sometimes I've negotiated with separate production companies. And today we're going to talk about some of the toughest things I've been through to date as far as trying to get the series signed, Ghost Girl Diaries. I have a lot of notes. So if you see me referencing my notes, it's mainly because I want to make sure I stay on track and make sure that I am covering all of my bases, and make sure that I don't overly speak in the wrong context, because this is a major topic and I really need to make sure I keep myself safe and protected. The one thing that I have ran into with every single negotiation for paranormal, for networks, for streaming services is you do not, me, Crystal, you do not fit the Amy Bruni type. So the type that they are seeking for women in paranormal is what they title the girl next door. Okay? I do not fit the girl next door. Now, as you guys know, I have had other people in my crew, Kat in the past, Elfie in the past. Now, both of them do fit the archetype of the girl next door. I, however, do not. The other thing is that as the executive producer, I have so much experience under my belt, and also as far as fame goes online, I have the highest net worth of fame online. Now, of course, Elfie did a lot of, shows of Paranormal State. I think she did like 152 shows or something, which is incredible, but she doesn't have a strong online presence. So because of that, I was always looked at with my past YouTube channel, millions of views. That's a success in producers' eyes. And even numbers on social media, it's a success in comparative. So repetitively, I get this same line, which is, you are not the Amy Bruni type. You are only good for blank. So oftentimes they would solicit me for sex. Now, this is going to get a little bit detailed, not too vulgar, but, this is your warning if you want to stay or not, okay? And, if you really want to hear, the nitty gritty of what happened, this is your warning. It's a trigger warning. If you if this won't suit well for you. Some of the producers are very basic. Some of them will say, you know, we will sign the series, we will budget you at, it's hard to discuss numbers. The first series is always, or the first season 1 is always the most expensive. And that's because you have a lot of travel involved. You have initial purchases, like you're only going to buy the cameras and the camera equipment that you need once. If you're purchasing an RV, which I actually had that in my budget, obviously you're not going to be purchasing that second season, third season. And then the biggest expense is pay. But oftentimes with season 1, no one's really getting paid the most. And the reason is because they need to see it get past that 3-season hump. If you're into getting season 4, 5, 6, now you're starting to make good money. But up until then, you're not. And I hate to say this, but if you do your own research and get online and you look at the Dead Files and you look at Amy the Psychic versus Steve Duchamp, I might have said his name wrong, I'm sorry. He gets incredibly overpaid, almost 2 to 3 times more than Amy does. Whether you like them or not, that's neither here nor there. Women have always been underpaid and undercut in the industry, and especially in paranormal. So essentially, even though Amy is the one going through with the reactions, and without Amy, it would not be able to be categorized as paranormal content, Steve is still getting paid 2 to 3 times more Amy is. And it's really shocking and sad, okay? So you are not Amy Bruni, Crystal. You are only good for, I'm going to just be very raw with you guys. I'm going to be very real. There's really no reason to not just be honest. I've never talked about this or put it out there before. I understand that I am above average with my looks, okay? And that's not to be narcissistic. That's not to be conceited. That's to say that I understand pretty privilege exists, okay? Although I'm not looking for handouts, okay? However, when you are above average and you're dealing with men in power and men with money, and that's, to date, I have not met a female executive producer to be able to fund my series completely by herself. So it's always older white men with money. And when I walk in and I am above average, it doesn't matter if I sat there for 2 hours spurting off all of my production knowledge, all of the film festivals that I've won, all of my professional experience. It does not matter. They hear nothing. They hear none of that. I worked for 10 years building my resume, thinking that if I did the work and I got behind the scenes and worked with all these big name celebrities, that is what would give me credentials, because I feel like in a normal work world, that is how we're viewed, right? You want to be a doctor, you go to college, you go to med school, you go to your specialty courses if you want to do anesthesia or whatever, and you're building credibility as a doctor, and then you can finally get a job and work. That's not how film works. I would walk into rooms, I'm shaking talking about it, with men sitting at the very, very wealthy men sitting at these huge desks and oval desks, 5 to 10 of them sometimes at a time. And it was like I was walking in a buffet and I was on the menu. And none of them heard anything that I was saying. They didn't want to hear what I was saying. They did not care about my knowledge. All they saw me was, a piece of ass, if I'm being honest. And I've gotten a lot of crap over the years from people that are co-producers I've worked with, friends, people in the industry, even in paranormal, My series would have been signed 10 years ago if I would have essentially sold my soul and slept with one of these rich men. And I never did it. And I get shit from everybody for that. A lot of people like, Crystal, it's just like a one-night stand. Like, haven't you ever had a one-night stand? I don't do that. And it's so much deeper than that. And we can go into that discussion if you want to hear my personal beliefs on sex and intimacy. I believe in soul bonds. I have never just slept with anyone. My numbers are very low. When I sleep with someone, I give my whole self to them. Sex is an extremely spiritual experience to me. I can never sleep with a stranger. Even when I'm dating someone or they're courting me, I don't just get into bed with them. I just don't. It's just who I've always been. Just who I've always been. I am very protective of my womanhood. I have always believed that because women carry life source in their womb, that we are the closest thing to God. And if that's my belief system, and I'm not saying I'm prude. I've had boyfriends in the past call me prude. No. Like, if I don't vibe with you and I don't want my soul to merge with you, it's not gonna. Now, why in the world would I sleep with an executive producer who has extremely ill intent, which is what I've talked about before, dark warlocks that will literally like steal your soul through your hole. It's the oldest card in Hollywood. A rich, wealthy man, think about Marilyn Monroe. Times were different because the 50s, the only way a woman could get anywhere was sleeping with men. Even to this day, women are still just seen as a commodity, which is horrible. You'd think that we'd be in a day and age where that wouldn't be, but the oldest trick in the book of Hollywood is a rich man can afford everything except a beautiful woman. And the only thing that he can do is offer her something in exchange for her career. And that's because he knows he's not worthy of her. It goes back to like the oldest trick in the book of a man sees a goddess that he knows he cannot level up to. So the oldest trick in the book is I'm going to take her divinity from her godliness from her holiness from her, which is sleep with her and leave her. And there was no way I was going to experience that. There was just no way. There's no way in hell I was going to let a stranger, one of these producers, literally be inside of my vessel in exchange for the series. What I'm saying at the end of the day is, even if you handed me millions of dollars, no, you cannot obtain this. And I've gotten shit for it. I've had some friends that look at me shocked because I could have been a millionaire by now, right? I mean, I've had men offer me 10 times what I've requested for the series. Like, they will pay me, if the first season is a budget of $1.1 million, they'll give me $10 million just to sleep with him. And so many people are like, oh my God, Crystal, like, that's your mistake. Like, sometimes you got to pay your dues in Hollywood and just do it to like get ahead. I guess then do it. You go do it. Then you go do it. I don't soul merge with toxic people. I just don't do it. And if that means taking the long way, and if that means maybe me not getting the series signed, because even at that point, there's still no guarantee that it would be signed, after season 2, 3, 4, 5, it's just initial. And then some of my friends, these are people from the past, would say stuff like, well, who cares if the series got canceled after one season? You're a millionaire. Because I don't count my worth by dollar signs. I don't count my worth by that. And if that were the case, I would have already been signed. Some people are like, Crystal, like, you've done all this stuff. Like, you're a great producer. Like, why haven't you been signed? Because I will not sell my soul. I just won't do it. It's, I've talked about astrology placements, and I really, truly believe that my astrology placements affect my outward projection to the world. I'm a Cancer rising. I've talked about this before. And then I have a stellium in Scorpio, which is very dark, right? It's in the 5th house of creativity. That's where I draw people that are jealous of me, people that watch me obsessively, people that hate me, but they can't stop watching type of attitude. But if you pair all of that together, when I walk into a room with executives, I am a hot commodity, okay? I have always walked with my head up high, not snurdy, but confident. I speak with confidence, and let's be honest. Most of these executives are not my type, okay? You guys know what my type is. I have, I wrote a book about this. I have a book. If you haven't purchased my book, buy it. I wrote a love memoir of who I've dated in the past. It's always been like a musician type. And like, I just have a very specific type that matches my energy. Okay. I need someone to match my freak. And most of these executives are, middle-aged, older, married, have children. Yes, they're millionaires, but I'm not ever going to be infringing upon a marriage. And they see me as a toy, a sex toy, a plaything. And if I want to get ahead, I'm going to have to pay the toll, is basically what they say. And if it's not sex that they're actually offering, it's them saying, you should do an OnlyFans. And look, I'm not against sex work, okay? Like, sex work is one of the oldest industries in the world. There was a time, because of religious trauma, women couldn't even get a job other than teaching and nursing. And the only other job they could do was sex work or be a housewife, okay? So if you want to do that, I'm not opposed to that in any way. I have friends that do it, okay? Will I do it? No, I will not. And this goes back to what I said earlier with my belief system, which is sex is holy, sex is sacred. I definitely have some placements in my astrology chart again, where when I'm intimate with someone, it is transformative. It is outer worldly. I'm also sharing the darkest and lightest parts of myself. Same with my partner. And why I would never put that on display. I would never put that on display. If you do, fine. I don't. It's private, and I'm going to keep it that way. No questions asked. And that also, to me, though, is like, there's so many guys I've seen online that get mad at like OnlyFans models or OnlyFans girls that go buy a house for $5 million with cash or whatever. And they're like, oh God, like, I just wish I could like show my cooch and like make money. Y'all are contributing to it. It's like, it's crazy because, and this isn't totally like a man hater video, because I have amazing fans that are men, and I need you guys to back me up, support me, and protect me. I need you there. But it's like, men will pay for OnlyFans while they're married or have wives or watch porn or whatever. And then they'll shun the model for what she does, yet they're paying for it behind the scenes, Oh, I would never marry or be with a girl that's on OnlyFans, but yet I'll pay for her content. And then when she goes and buys her $1 million house, I'm going to complain about it, because it's, once again, the oldest trick in the book, which is stripping a woman's godliness and divinity from her by making her below him, which is also religious trauma. I'm sorry, I'll say it. Let's go back to my notes and see, because I kind of went on a tangent. There's just been repeated attempts to push me that my only value repeatedly is sex. The only value that I'm beautiful. You should hear these these executives think. I'm thinking about this. I'm thinking about one of these horrible experiences I had. So I was in this room, and this was before Rona happened. And I'm in this room and I'm negotiating. Okay, and I'm in this room with probably 5 to 7 guys. I can't remember how many. They're all in suits. They're all millionaires. And I'm sort of negotiating these contracts with them. And I get hit on by all of them at the same time. And I'm scared because it feels like a feast. And instead of talking about my experience, instead of talking about paranormal, instead of talking about what I've accomplished on the YouTube channel, they start just flourishing me with compliments. Crystal, you're so beautiful. You're a man's dream. Any man would want to like fantasize about thinking about you in bed. Where the real money can be made is, you know, the sex industry. Where the real money with you can be made is OnlyFans. You know, like we don't even have to do like the sex work. We can do, you know, just, you know, nude model. Like they're getting gritty. They're talking about my body parts. They're talking about them wanting to see my body parts. Sometimes they get as specific as asking me to expose myself. Sometimes they get specific as describing in detail. My throat's closing up because it's just making me sick thinking about it. Sometimes I'll be in the room with them or on the phone or on video call, and they'll start describing in detail how they want to sleep with me, what position they want me in, how they want my legs positioned, how they've thought about me, how they've fantasized about me. And once again, the negotiation was paranormal production and TV. It was not me laying on my back, waiting to be devoured. And it made me sick. And also, like, I'm going to go back to it again. Not only do I need a spiritual connection, but I need to be attracted to my partner. Everyone has preferences. I've always dated alternative and gothic guys. It's just who I am. And me looking at, like, you know, a normie 50-year-old man with a wife in a suit who doesn't take care of his health, and you want me to let that inside me? I don't think so. Not going to happen. And, you know, you think because you can flash a $10 million check at me, that's going to make me interested. And it's crazy because I think some women would probably take that opportunity, but I'm not interested in it. And, you know, I have Lilith in the 10th house, right? Conjunct my Venus. It's a very dark placement, but it's a very powerful, gritty placement, okay? Now, most women that have Venus and Lilith conjunct in the 10th house, it is a famous placement for sex work. So I'm assuming that's how I am read when I walk in the room, one of the reasons. But it's also powerful because you can be extremely, you know, you can be extremely rebellious with that placement. And I can just say that every time this has happened, more and more and more, I have become angrier and angrier and angrier. And I rebel more and more and more. My last contract was in like the end of COVID, at the end. And it happened again. And I was like, I'm just done negotiating. It makes me wonder sometimes, like, if I went into these negotiations with like a male partner, whether that's an EP or not, I don't know. Like, if I went into these negotiations with a male partner, I don't think that I would be treated the same. I think that I would be seen as hands-off and more protected. But, you know, that's just not going to happen. And that's where I got the burnout of not wanting to do the negotiations anymore. You know, there's a lack of female representation and leadership, and I really think this is why I can't be the only one that's gone through this. You know I identify as alternative and goth, but I love fashion because it's a way of expressing myself. I love makeup because I'm a cosmetologist. I do my hair well because I went to school for it, you know, like, so not everyone's probably going to fall into my category that's in the paranormal industry. But there's also this thing of, like, you know, a lot of people have seen the old ghost shows where they crawl on their hands and knees in an attic, and they're like, oh, you're too pretty to do that. It's like, first of all, you're not going to find a ghost in a crawl space that's this big, okay? Like, you're going to find dirt and spiders. We don't need to go in the crawl space. That's silly. In fact, the ghosts are probably laughing at you, but you're too pretty to do that. You don't look like the girl next door. You know, you need the Amy Bruni look is the only success that we have, which is the jeans and t-shirts. How do you know? How do you know that's the only success? No one else has been signed other than the girl next door. So how do you know anything else would fail? But it doesn't matter. You just, you know, it's gate kept by older male producers and executives. And I don't know if and when that will ever change. It's weird because, like, I grew up, you know, very accepting of everyone, no judgment on anybody, on any skin color. And I didn't realize how backwards the world still was until I entered this phase of, like, negotiating contracts. I had no idea it was still so sexist. I had no idea. Even when I was working as, like, a producer in the industry, I didn't face that kind of sexism. I was at least given a chance. And then once they figured out I was a really good producer, and I honestly think that's why I have a really bad taste in my mouth to go back to the studio. You know, if I'm dealing with these executive producers and production companies and networks, and that's how their executives are, is they swindle, you know, a contract for sex, why would I want to be part of that industry? I think also that there is a fetish, you're fetishized as a woman in paranormal. I know that's the fact, and I don't really know why. I don't know if it's because it's always been so male driven. You know, I think Amy Bruni has been so successful because she was her own EP, but it's very rare. You know, she's just like one of one. And I remember Chris Williams, she was from Ghost Hunters. She was sexualized too, and she's pretty girl next door, but she had big boobs. And she would talk about how people would just write forums and forums about it, and it was just men talking about her boobs. It had nothing to do with her being a good investigator. And I hope that change happens. I don't know. I don't know how to fix this. Maybe you guys can come up with ideas and leave me comments below. Another part that I think I need to talk about is the emotional impact on this that has happened to me. It's been heavy burden, not only for me, but like I'm carrying Elfie and Kat and other people, and then another contract falls through, and another contract falls through, and another contract falls through. And it's crazy because, like, I have everything they need. I have the proof, I have the pilots, I have the credibility, I've built my online presence, I have film festivals, I've done the work, and they're like, no, you're hot, you'll have to sleep with us first. Are you kidding me? No, I'm not going to do it. It's so gross. I'm not going to let some toxic male inside of me. Opportunities lost, not because of lack of talent, not because of lack of knowledge, but because I said no to sex. That really weighs emotionally heavily on you. I even, 2022, 2023, I was still healing from my mom's death, and I went through a really super dark goth phase for a little bit, just something I had to kind of experience. And producers were watching me, and I got fetishized even more. And I was being questioned about OnlyFans and stuff, and I was like, there was a split second that I was like, people have been telling me this for years. Like, I guess that's all I'm good for. It was almost like they'd almost had me convinced. And I had to take a break from social media for a while and really just like sit and think. And I was like, is that all I was made for? Like, I was born with a vagina and boobs. And I've had this 10, 15-year career where I've literally worked my ass off. I've probably negotiated more contracts than anyone out there, anybody. And all I'm good for is to be seen naked. How unfair is that? My Lilith comes out and she just rages. She just rages. The internal war between your dreams and your boundaries. You know, like I've had those moments where I'm like, what if? Should I? Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Then you see these people that do take the shortcuts and they change, right? Because I feel like that would cause some demons. I feel like if you slept with an executive for $10 million, for me at least, it would cause some demons. And I'd have to go figure out, how do you un-F that? I don't even want to know. I don't need more trauma, honestly. And then survival and resistance. Like, how do you keep your integrity intact if you do that? You know, like, I don't know. Please don't leave me comments that you would have done it. So go do it then. So go do it. I stand by my decision, you know? Eventually you have to flip it and say, okay, well, I'm just going to have to keep building my own platform and rely on myself instead of them, and then stay visible without compromising, you know, who I am at my core. Advice to other women in the field. You know, at May of 2025, we saw an explosion happen in the paranormal industry of all of the men being exposed, right? I'm talking about the men celebrities, and they're all this way. With an exception of like Aaron Goodwin, he's a good guy. And except he's going through that drama with his ex. And then maybe it's just Aaron. Maybe it's just Aaron. But men in the industry see women as pork chops. They're meat. Don't believe men, either producers or production companies. And that's the worst part too, right? Here was my other fear. And I'm being like legit with you. What if I made the decision to like go ahead and sleep with a producer? Okay. Like, okay, I'm going to get signed. I bet you he wouldn't sign me anyways. How do you hold him liable for that? I've known so many girls that have slept with producers and celebrities who have promised them shows and they don't follow through. So I just gave away my golden box to you and got nothing in return. Wouldn't that make you like depressed? You know, like I sold myself and got nothing in return. Like that's because most of the men in this industry treat women like they're expendable. There's another one of you that will come along. I mean, we saw this happen in May, right? There's a famous celebrity who cheated on his girlfriend with multiple women, didn't care, expungible, just like get on to the next one. Recording women in intimate scenes in haunted locations without their consent, using those videotapes as leverage above their head. If you tell anybody you slept with me, or you tell anybody that I offered you a contract, I'm going to expose you by releasing the sex tape. Some of the girls that were involved with that messaged me, and they got so scared that he was going to release the sex tapes that they did not consent to, that they started OnlyFans to take their power back. This is the oldest trick in the book. Removing a woman's divinity by making her feel less than him. Put her down, be below him, walk 10 steps behind me, as the Bible says. You are not my equal, you are below me. You are not my equal, I own you. Women are not of equal. And I hate to say it, but like paranormal is spiritual, it is religious. These men are acting like false prophets. Don't effing believe a goddamn word out of their mouth, and it will save yourself. Like, I feel so bad for these women that have started OnlyFans to just try to overcome the trauma of them being recorded without consent and being threatened. But you know what? The men feel power now. The men feel power because they know that they're in control. They have those tapes they can release at any moment. And they've already put them down because now that they're on OnlyFans, they'll probably never be signed to a network. A large-scale network will never sign an OnlyFans model if you've done any kind of sex work in the past. So what did he just do? He did exactly what he wanted to do. He was never going to release those tapes. But he did it so that you're now no longer competition, right? No one's competition. You're below him. You're less than. It is a dark warlock. He stole your soul through your hole, and now it doesn't matter anymore. And I have never allowed it to happen. I would rather be a nobody for the rest of my life. And that hurts to say, because I love paranormal. It's my passion. I don't know what I'd do without it. You know, like I told you guys, I've had these conversations with myself. I love fashion. I'd love to have a fashion line someday. I would love to have a makeup line, a gothic makeup line someday. I have these big goals for myself. I would love to become a billionaire and build a gothic cathedral somewhere where people could get married because they don't exist in the United States. Like I have philanthropy goals, you know. But if I don't make those goals and I don't get famous for ghost hunting, not that the fame is it's not even about the fame. For me, it's about just filming in haunted locations, and like film is storytelling, right? Film is telling the stories of the dead, communicating with the other side, teaching people the gray zone exists, teaching people that the other side exists, teaching people that it's not over when we die here, it's just beginning. We're only a soul having a human experience, not the other way around. Teaching people that it's death and darkness and shadow is actually a beautiful thing, especially when you've healed like I have and you've merged with it. That's my passion, is storytelling behind the darkness. But if I never get to do it because no one gives me a chance, even after everything I've worked for, at least I know I die with my integrity and that I never gave that up. And red flags to watch out for if you're a woman in the industry: I'll sign you if you sleep with me. It's a lie. It may happen and it may not happen. I'll sign you if you start OnlyFans. They're doing that to put you out of business. You will never get a series on OnlyFans or sex work. The power of networking and coming together with other women is where we need to be right now. Is women supporting other women. Because the men will not do it. So I can't describe to you how important it is to collaborate with other females in the industry and just stay safe, because the men in this industry, celebrity and production wise, are hunters who are looking to devour you, and they will throw your carcass away like it was last week's trash. So promises made are unkept, and it's bullshit, is really where I'm at. I'm on a journey to figure out how to build a career without a production company on your own. So stay tuned for that. I'm brainstorming. I've never gone this route before. I don't know if I want to go back to the networks. You know, even now, I think that online is the best option for me. I'll have full creative control. I need a crew for sure, and I need to live somewhere that's like Vegas. There's nothing haunted here. There's nothing close. Everything's 4 to 8 hours away. So I've got to leave to be able to get this done. But you know that I'm here to teach. You know that I'm not here to gatekeep. But I'm mainly here to just be outspoken and tell you to be safe. And if something sounds like it's too good, it probably is. And do not let men make you feel less than. That's another thing I think that men didn't like when I was in the negotiations, is I've been around millionaires for years, right? I've been around billionaires. I'm not intimidated by a celebrity. I'm not intimidated by status. I'm not intimidated by money. But do you know what they were intimidated by? Little old me. Because they knew they couldn't access me. So they wanted to strip me of my divinity. Women are goddesses. We're the only thing that creates life. And do not forget that, ladies. And that's a wrap on today's episode of Ghost Girl Diaries. Thank you so much for joining me in my crypt. If you loved what you heard, be sure to subscribe, like, and comment. It helps the ghostly adventures continue. And also don't forget to follow me on all social media platforms. You can search for Crystal Leandra or Ghost Girl Diaries. Please support me on both. This is where you can catch exclusive content, behind the scenes footage, and stay up to date on all things paranormal and glam. And as always, stay curious, stay fearless, and stay spooky. And I'll catch you next time on Ghost Girl Diaries, where the dead never rest, and neither do we. Until then, my ghoulish friends, sweet screams.